Hey guys, it's Malphasar here, and we're going to dive in to my version of the Shred Druid for Diablo 4 Season 7. So let's take a look together. Alright, so first thing we're going to cover here is the gear. There are a few interchangeable parts as you level up, so take note of that. So for our helmet, we're using the Air of Perdition. Here you can, if you don't have the Mythic yet, you can use just a regular helmet here. And you can use the aspect that will give you damage reduction while you're in a werewolf form. I think that's more than sufficient. We're going to be using the Mad Wolf's Glee. We are hoping to hit a GA on max life at the minimum. If we can hit it on the Lupine Ferocity as well, that's great, because that's going to increase our critical damage multiplier when we get those critical hits, thanks to the Lupine Ferocity key passive. For our gloves, here we would want willpower, attack speed, and then ideally we'd like to hit shred on this, but any other stat, whether it's health, crit damage, would also be pretty sufficient here. For your gloves, and on the gloves we are running the Stormclaw aspect. On our pants, we want to hit a GA on max life, armor, and then willpower as well. And you're going to want to temper the total armor percent here to make sure you hit those armor caps. And then you want one of the lucky hits, preferably stun or freeze. For our second unique, we're going to use Yen's Blessing. This is mainly to get the resistances we need for the build, since it is very difficult to meet all the defensive requirements. Yen's Blessing gives us a powerful resistance to all elements, then also the chance to free cast one of our cooldown abilities that will, whether that is the Blood Howl, the Debilitating Roar, or our Earthen Bulwark, which will kind of give us some more defensive options, and also when they trigger, we're going to get a damage bonus whenever those trigger. Next, we're running the Waxing Gibbous. We're running this because we want that 100% chance to crit. Ideally, we're going to want to hit the greater affix on shred. In this case, we got on crit damage, but we still managed to get a good masterwork on it. But getting the GA on shred is what we want here ideally. And you actually will not use the Waxing Gibbous if your crit chance is above 70%. At which point you'll want another damage multiplier. And since the Waxing Gibbous does not have a damage multiplier, using anything with some max life, willpower, and then crit damage is ideal. At which point we can add the aspect of Changeling Debt to this. And as for tempering, you want Werewolf attack speed, and the Shred has a chance to deal double damage. For our amulet, we're going to use the Melfit Crescent. On here, we want the GA on Feral Aptitude because that's just going to give us the most power. Ideally, we'd also want it on the willpower just so we can get a little more power in our willpower. And the unique ability here says critical strike damage is increased to up to 200% for consecutive crits. So each time you're critting consecutively, it makes the base value of Lupine Ferocity higher. And that will include the additive amount from your Mad Wolf's Glee. On your amulets, you want willpower, attack speed, max life. And then for your tempers, attack speed, resource cost reduction, or resource regeneration. Any of the resources are pretty beneficial here. For the aspects, we want to be running the aspect of Retaliation and the aspect of Unsatiated. Down the road, if you manage to get a Ring of the Starless Sky, you can actually replace the Unsatiated aspect with the Ring of Starless Skies, as it will be more than strong enough for you in this scenario. Then lastly, we want a totem that has willpower, max life, crit chance, and then similar to the weapon, we still want the werewolf attack speed and the chance for shred to deal double damage. And on the last aspect here, we'll be running the aspect of the Blurred Beast, as this is just a flat damage increase for shred with the chance to hit up to 4 additional times. Next, we're going to cover this season's powers. So for the powers, I am running with this build. Our unique power we're running is the cycle. This just gives us a way of keeping poison and getting some additional heals. And it also is going to give us our vulnerable via the Shaken Souls. We're running Soul Harvest because you just getting that percentage to your primary core stat increased is a very powerful effect. There's no reason not to be running this. Hex Flame is another good just ability. Gives you some bonus damage and also lets your damage do it in an AoE whenever you get a crit. And we're going to be critting most of the time. Decay Augmentation is just a little bit of extra damage over time that has a execute effect. It really, honestly, does not come into effect that often, but we're mainly running it because it is the next best thing we can get from growth and decay. Then lastly, you're going to run Purging Touch if you have the Witch Hour Occult gem. If you do not have that gem, I recommend running the Abyssal Resonance. It gives us a way to suck in our enemies when we're at 2 stacks of the Abyssal Resonance, and it's just a little bit of extra damage. For our Spirit Boons, we are running in our Stag Tree the Wariness for the reduced damage from elites. If you want to try and squeeze in a bit more damage, you could try Prickle Skin for the additional multiplier and damage whenever you get hit. Second, for the Eagle, we are running the attack speed and crit damage bonus here. When you're pit pushing, I recommend dropping the attack speed and taking the max life instead. For the Wolf, we're going to just run Energize, so we have a lucky hit chance to restore our spirit completely whenever we hit an enemy. Then for our Snake Spirit, we are going to run Masochist. It makes it so our crit strikes have a lucky hit chance to restore life, which is going to be sustain our life and keep us alive. So for our skill tree, it's pretty straightforward. We're just taking the points in Maul because we do run quick shift, so it gives us a way to build up our quick shift stacks fairly quickly. In the core tree, we're going to take Heart of the Wild to Wild Impulse just for the damage multiplier on our core attack. Next, we're running Predatory Instinct for the extra 6% crit chance, as well as Digigate Grade. Since we'll be in werewolf form all the time, this is just going to be a flat movement speed increase. For Shred, we are putting as many points as we can into it and going to take Primal Shred for the crit damage multiplier and the dash on all attacks. For our defensive tree, we're taking Earthen Bulwark with Backlash as well, so whenever we use Blood Howl or Debilitating Roar or our Bulwark, we're going to get a 12% damage increase. With Blood Howl, we're taking the innate Blood Howl because it gives us a 25% damage multiplier as long as we are a werewolf, and it is very easy to keep our werewolf form online. And then for debilitating Roar, we're going to take the innate Debilitating Roar for the 15% increased damage while it's active. And then we're going to max out Ancestral Fortitude and Vigilance just for some more flat defenses. Feral Aptitude is the only one we're taking in the companion tree. This is going to give us just some flat damage multiplier increase. With these two alone, we are already getting 54% damage multiplier because you're always going to you'll almost always be healthy, and your movement speed is always above 100%. In the Wrath tree, we're going to put 1 point into Neurotoxin, 3 points into Envenom. We're putting no points into Toxic Claw because we get 2 points for free from the Waxing Gibbous. And then also with our unique ability from the Witchcraft, if we switch off the Waxing Gibbous, we still don't need the Toxic Claws. Toxic Claw still doesn't do enough for it to be effective, so I personally think it's not worth taking. For the Ultimate tree, we're taking Petrify, putting max points into it and just maxing it out. Getting the crit damage multiplier against bosses and enemies while they're petrified is super strong. And it also resets cooldowns when needed. And then we also get to use Catastrophe, which is whenever we cast our ultimate skill, we get a 15% damage multiplier as well. And for the defensive posture, Nature's Resolve and Unrestrained, we're putting max points. Just gives us a little bit of defenses while we're fortified, which is very easy to maintain. We're putting 3 points into Quick Shift, 3 points into Heightened Sense. Again, more Heightened Sense is going to give us a little more defenses. Quick Shift is going to give us a little more damage. Then we have 2 extra little points here. We just throw them into Natural Fortitude, so that way whenever we use Debilitating Roar, we're also building up a bit more for additional Fortify when we shapeshift back into Werewolf once we start shredding. And then for our key passive, we're running Lupine Ferocity. This is going to be our big damage dealer here. So every third hit is going to critically strike, and our critical strikes deal a 300% multiplicative increased damage. For the Paragon board, in our first board, we're going to run the Fang and Claw glyph. In our second board, we're going to run Outmatch, and we're not going to take the Inner Beast node here, as we don't require it. Third board, we're going to run Spirit with Heightened Malice, where we are going to make sure we take this legendary node. In our fourth board, we're taking our Werewolf glyph, making sure to run the Ancestral Guidance node here for that bonus damage. And then for our last one, we're going to be running Headhunters and making sure to hit the Lust for Carnage node here. For our mercenaries, we're running Variana. Here we're making sure we get the Bloodthirst with the increase to attack speed, because this build really shines the more attack speed that we get. And then for our reinforcement, we're taking Ra here, and we're taking the Bastion for the redirecting the damage to him, as well as becoming unstoppable and triggering this when we become injured as a get out of jail free card. So that is pretty much it for our build guide here. What I've done for you guys is in the description down below, I've put a link for an early late game, an end game, and a speed farm build with the full planners available for you guys to check out. Like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. In the comments, let me know what classes you have played this build. Are you going to be trying out this build I got here for you? I want to hear it. Let me know. And that's it for today. We're going to be going live with some more boss runs and pit pushing with this build on our stream here on YouTube. So until next time, my friends, have a good one, everyone.